Welcome to Overcome Yourself, the podcast, where we rewrite stories, shift mindsets, and make dreams come true. I'm your host, Nicole. Let's get into today's episode. Hello there, and welcome back to the next episode of Overcome Yourself, the podcast. As you know, my name is Nicole, and I'm so excited to be here today with Ian. And Ian is going to be talking to us today about something that keeps coming up, something that I keep hearing. So it's just something that's been in my attention. And so I'm super excited to be talking to Ian today about purpose. And he's got a lot to say between my purpose as an individual, my purpose as a business. So let's just jump into it before I butcher what it is that you do. So Ian, please take it away and tell us a little bit about who you are and who you now help.
Oh, sure. Thank you very much. Um, I'm someone who, through the course of my university and then my successive careers, I've been kind of obsessed with one thing, and that's sort of getting to the authentic root, right, of whatever. And it started, I was a copywriter for an advertising agency coming out of university. And what what I wrote was awful. It was cliche driven. It was banal. And the one thing is, I recognized it. At least I recognized it, and I was so frustrated because the words that I was typing on my typewriter to age me a bit. I couldn't stand them, and but and it was because I wanted to get to the authentic root of the company or the brand or the product or the service. Anyway, I'm not still a copywriter in advertising because that didn't, I never got any better. But that's really what happened. And then about 20 years ago, I started a strategy company with a partner who sadly died during COVID. But it's just sort of a general strategy company. It was like, let's talk about your business and then we'll figure out a strategy with you, blah, blah, blah. But that slowly morphed into, we started adding pieces, and those pieces we would tend to use over and over again. And it
Mhm.
got to the point where, we were customizing less and we had a set, and then finally it crystallized. We had a set process. So we didn't do anything customizable anymore. You came to us because you liked our methodology, you liked what it put out, and so you went through our process. Now, the process is really, really simple. And what it does is it recognizes that the greatest value or the thing of greatest value that a company has. And if I ask that question, they'll usually say our people. And yeah, you can make an argument that your people are your most valuable asset. But your people come and go. And what is it that makes your people so valuable? What is it about the company that makes the people such a valuable asset? So I believe that a company's single most important asset is knowing the one thing that makes it uniquely remarkable. And there's always one thing. It always rolls up into one thing, no matter how diversified, the company is. We blueprinted a bank, and banks are not one company. Banks are like a dozen or dozens of companies all under one roof. But they all have something in common with, the parent. And so that's the one thing that makes the parent uniquely remarkable. And so I believe that every company should know the one thing at their essence that makes them uniquely remarkable. Because that'll when you know that, and our standard, by the way, is to express that in 7 words or less. So you've got a very short phrase that explains, describes what makes you uniquely remarkable. And so once you know that, it allows you to do two very powerful things. As an organization, it allows you to design and guide how you're going to operate, and then design and guide how you're going to communicate. Those are the two broad functions of every single company in the world. And what do you do as a business and how do you communicate that to a world? And both of those things, if they're designed and guided by the one thing that makes you uniquely remarkable, then those things are always consistently a reflection of your full value of the organization, right? So if you look at a company like Apple, if you ever saw Simon Sinek's first TED Talk, he described Apple's, the one thing that makes it uniquely remarkable, which he calls your why, right? He described their why as changing the game, and I heard that and I went, "Oh my God, that's like bang on. That's bang on, right?" Apple has never invented anything in its life, but it's taken something that existed and made it way, way better, like game changing better. So that's Apple's purpose, right? And whatever it does, change the game. If we do that, we're going to be a successful, profitable company. And so when you look at Apple's products, they're all game changing products. When you look at Apple's communication, it's always, game changing advertising and whatever. So, um, so really simple process. Identify what makes you uniquely remarkable as an organization in 7 words or less, and then use it to design and guide how you operate and communicate. And then COVID hit, and I said to my partner, we're not getting any business for a few years here. And again, sadly, he died shortly after that. Um, but I got my coaching certification and I started, doing some executive coaching. Sorry, this is turning into a really long monologue.
No, 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 that's great though. So yeah, yeah, go for it.
So I started coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And when I would talk to prospects, they all said the same thing. This pandemic has got me thinking about my life. I don't like my career. I don't like where my life is going. I want to live a life of meaning and purpose. And I said, "That's awesome. What's your purpose?" And they'd say, "I don't know." And I'd say, and then I realized that I have this thing over here that I've been doing with businesses for about 15 years. And I could just adapt that to individuals so that an individual can identify what makes them uniquely remarkable and then have that guide their life going forward. So I ended up creating a course out of that um, with another business partner. And so that course is offered online. So you as an individual can figure out what it is that makes you uniquely remarkable. Sorry, Nicole, I just have to say one more thing to tie a couple of things
Yeah,
together
go no,
because
go for it.
I keep talking about what makes you uniquely remarkable, that gift that every
Mhm.
business and every person has. But how does that relate to purpose? And my big frustration with the whole world of purpose is
Mhm.
that everyone talks about how important it is to be purpose driven. And here are all the benefits of being purpose driven, which are true.
Mhm.
But there's two things that they never, ever, ever tell you. What it actually is, what's purpose, and then how it actually works to make your life better. What's the mechanic? How does how does it cause things to shift for you? And so during COVID, I ran into this Pablo Picasso quote, the artist, and he said, "The meaning of life is to find your gift, and your purpose is to share it with the world." And I went, "Whoa." Well, all it's saying is figure out who the best possible you is and then share that with the world. That's really what your purpose is. The question is, how do you figure out who the best possible you is? But I realized, this best possible you, this gift thing, that's exactly the same thing as the one thing that makes you uniquely remarkable. So for 15 years, I had been helping companies find their purpose without realizing that's what I was doing. But once I did, I started calling it that. So, my three-part methodology to find what makes you uniquely remarkable in 7 words or less, use it to design and guide everything you do, everything you say. That is a structured, proven methodology for helping you find your purpose and then share it with the world. Apple, what's your purpose? Change the game. Okay, Apple, you know what it is? Go out and share that with the world. And that's what they do. And that's why they're such a successful company.
Yes, yes, yes. Um, Interesting, interesting. And I read an article about somebody was wondering if Apple had lost it because they did another launch and it didn't have the same zhuzh as it used to. And they were like, "Oh, have they stopped changing the game?" So just even to your point is it's noticeable. It was noticeable when they did something and it wasn't quite as revolutionary as the other products and it was a little bit more expensive. Everybody's like, eh. And so they're like, whoa, has something changed? And so even to that point, yes. But what I want to ask you is I have a lot of clients, I have a lot of listeners, a lot of, people out there who are like, like me, maybe a one woman show, a one man show. And so as an individual, but also, working with the public, like we're doing our thing, we're working with our clients, we're selling courses. Where does that purpose where do I fit in, right? Because I can imagine like Apple, because you've got departments, a bank, you got like managers, and you got people working for them, and you got different sections. But what about when it's just an individual? Like, what advice do you have for that person, which is not just an individual? I'm just saying, like, you're so powerful. You're wearing like 27 hats already as an
Yeah.
individual doing all these things. So what's your advice for that person who's right in between the individual and the business, but not quite fitting either?
So as you go through, if I was to sort of lead you through that process,
Mm-hmm.
right, rather than taking the course or um, what I would do is I would have us focus on both things. Because
Mm-hmm.
what's likely, I heard a great metaphor when I was in university. It was a guy, he wrote this great book. And the book was called Gödel, Escher, and Bach. Gödel was a mathematician who came up with um, an equation that was not only groundbreaking in math, but was groundbreaking in all of life. Escher is that artist who does, those optical illusion sketches. And Bach is the guy who, in his day, he had a few pop tunes. And he described those as three shadows cast from the same stone. They have the same source. Three completely different things, but they
Mm-hmm.
have the same source. And I loved that metaphor. And the way that metaphor works with your purpose is the stone. And everything that you do and say, either as an individual or as an organization, is a shadow cast from that stone. And the more Um, sometimes when shadows are cast, they're diffused, right? They've got diffused edges, and other times they've got very sharp edges. And they're very clearly defined. The shadows are very clearly defined. And the difference there is how well you can articulate your purpose. So the more notional your sense of your purpose is, the more, wishy-washy the shadows are going to be. But the sharper you've defined your purpose, the sharper those shadows will be. The more those shadows will be aligned with the purpose that they're being cast from. So I would focus on both your business and your purpose, personal. Um, my personal purpose statement is transforming confusion into clarity. So I have a, my gift, my not to be immodest, but is when people have very complex issues that they just can't, they can't figure out. I don't solve those for them. It's not like the big brain comes in and, oh, I've got the answer, but I have a way to find the answer. And so I lead them through that process and it's collaborative. And together we break that tough issue down into more difficult pieces. And at some point the answer pops out. So that's what my gift is the ability to take complex issues and through this process figure them out. And And where was I going with that? Oh. So that is the purpose of me personally, but also of Blueprint. And so Blueprint is the business that works with companies. Purpose You, its purpose statement is revealing what makes you uniquely remarkable. So it's like, they're all in the same neighborhood because they're both my businesses, even though there's other people involved,
Mhm.
and they are both shadows cast from the stone of my purpose.
That
Um,
is really cool.
yeah, so your personal purpose and your business purpose would probably be the same thing.
Okay. And if someone's listening and they're like, this is super interesting, I wonder what's my purpose? Like what can I start thinking about, or what questions do you have to kind of get my gears rolling? So when I call you to talk about this more, we've got a little bit more info to offer you, right?
Yeah. So I often get asked, usually by companies, what do we need to do to prepare? Um, and I say, consider this question. That's all you need to do to prepare. If everything you do and say is a means to an end, what is the end purpose? Okay. If everything, all the activities of the organization and all the expressions of the organization, like branding, marketing, and sales, if all those are a means to a single end, what is that end purpose? And what that does is it makes companies think one level above where they normally think, because they're trying to optimize everything that they do and say. And if you ask them, what's the purpose of your company? They're going to say to do these things the best we can. And it's like, no, that's not your purpose. Your purpose is something very specific because every company would have exactly the same purpose if purpose was to do all these things the best we can, right?
Yes.
Apple's per Apple has to do all these things the best that it can, independently of its purpose. But how is it going to do all these things the best it can? By transforming by changing the game, right?
Yes.
And then the
Okay.
way it works, okay, so this is the second question, by the way. You've led into that. The second question that people don't answer, which is how does it work? Okay, I've got my purpose statement, transforming confusion into clarity, changing the game, whatever. My partner's was causing wow. And everybody who knew him would say, "Oh yeah, that was Ken. Yep. That's how he lived his life, personally and in business." And that was his contribution to Blueprint, was causing wow, right? He put the causing wow into the Blueprint process. So, excuse me, the way it works is um is I'm at the age that a lot of people are retiring, right? And so the question becomes, what do you do in your retirement? You have questions, right? And they're big questions. They're difficult questions. And how we answer them usually is we just muddle through the answer the best that we can. But when you use your purpose to answer these questions, it becomes much easier. Because, you know, if I were retiring tomorrow, right, I'd say, okay, well, what am I going to do? I'm basically saying, what are my options? And there's no parameters built into that question. So it can be anything. And that's not helpful. But if I say, of all the options available to me, which ones are most aligned with transforming confusion into clarity, right? Well, I'll tell you, going into the lawn maintenance business, although I would be creating clarity out of confusion with your
Mhm.
grass,
Yes.
that's not a business, or a sideline that um, that feeds into my purpose. Now, if I decided to do something like, let's say I wanted something, I just wanted to work in a retail store. I wanted to be, a salesperson or a customer service person. The more support the customer would need in order to understand the product and make that purchase decision, the more that job or that store, that product would align with my purpose. Right? So if I worked in a dollar store, you know, I'd be making some extra money in my retirement, but that would not be aligned with my purpose.
Mhm.
But something that was a complicated sale where people came in and they didn't know what they were doing, they didn't know what they should be looking
Immediately,
for.
I think tech store. Like they're
Sure,
coming in for a computer, a printer, something, and they're giving you a
sure,
puzzle. Okay, yeah, yeah. Like,
sure.
versus the dollar store comparison where everything's kind of like, well, it's a dollar. Like
Yeah.
you get what you
It's
get.
like, and then, and then when you can help them in such a way that they truly get it and they don't need you anymore because you have, brought them up to your level of understanding, they are like, oh my God, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I feel like a hero.
Yeah, and versus, working with someone whose purpose is just to be there to make money, and then you try to ask them questions and then they don't care, so they can't answer you. They don't It's like, and so yeah, it makes a lot of sense where, if even if it's not necessarily in your area of expertise, if it's something that you actually enjoy where you have a purpose there, um
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah, for
better for
sure.
you and for the people you interact with, right?
Yeah, I have worked on political campaigns in the past. And if you want me to go to door to hand out flyers, no, that's sorry, that's not my thing. But if you want me to help you in campaign strategy, if you want me to help you manage, difficult situations that come up with figure out collectively a strategy for how to handle it, those things are all right up my alley, right? But here's the thing. It's not just for me to decide how to live my life. It's also for other people to figure out how to best take advantage of my gift. So imagine you worked in a company, lots of people, and just down the hall from you, there were a couple of offices, and on one door it said Ian, transforming confusion into clarity. And on the next door it said Ken, causing wow. Okay. You and your team, you have a problem and you keep shelving it because you have meetings, you can't resolve it, so you shelve it. Bring it up the next meeting, you shelve it, shelve it, shelve it. So, whose door do you knock on? Transforming confusion into clarity or causing wow? Well, obviously, you knock on the transforming confusion into clarity door. Once confusion is transformed into clarity and you're sitting there going, oh my God, we figured this out. Now, how do we, as you said before, how do we zhuzh this up so that it becomes compelling, so that it's inspiring, so that it captures people's imaginations? Well, you don't knock on the transforming confusion
Now
into
we're going to
clarity
the
door.
wow door.
You knock on the causing wow door,
Yeah.
right? So when people know what you stand for, when people know your purpose, your gift, what makes you uniquely remarkable, they'll seek you out for that. And this
Yeah.
to me, right? So there's this whole notion of just put it out into the universe and it will come back to you. And some people really buy into that. What's that called? The law of
What
it's called
are you, manifestation or attraction?
the law of
Maybe.
attraction. The law of
Okay.
attraction, right? And so some people really believe in it, and the people who don't believe in it think the people who do are woo-woo.
Yes.
Here's what I think the law of attraction is. It's marketing.
Mhm.
Yeah, put it out there who you are. Tell people what your purpose is. tell them what makes you uniquely remarkable, and they will come when they need you because they know, right? Like Nicole, a year from now, right? We haven't seen each other for a year. We haven't talked to each other for a year. Someone comes to you and says, we've got this hard problem. We keep shelving, 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 shelving. Without knowing anything more, excuse me, about what I do, you would say, "Oh, wait, there's this guy Ian. You should talk
I
to
have a
him."
friend.
Yeah, yeah, this guy Ian. I've never actually, he hasn't helped me personally, so I can't vouch for him, but I know this is what he does, and it might be worth a conversation with him to see if he can help you transform your confusion into clarity.
Yep, there it
I didn't
is.
give you a detailed explanation of that. I didn't sit down for an hour and pitch my business or my skills to you so you know them inside out and therefore you can evangelize on my behalf. I told you my purpose statement. It was self-evident and compelling in the right scenario,
Yes.
right? In the right scenario, if you got a problem you can't solve, transforming confusion into clarity is compelling. Otherwise, it's not,
Hmm.
right? So just by telling you my purpose statement, you become an evangelist for my business.
Yeah. And I do, I love my podcast guests. Like I actually like enjoy hanging out with you guys and talking to you guys. And, like I add you guys on social media. You guys are getting behind the scenes if you're listening. um, but that's one of the really cool things, right? Is that we get to share. I get to meet you, and then when someone else has an issue or something, oh, I know somebody who can help you with that. I actually interviewed so and so who does that, or oh, I met somebody. Have them on your podcast because based on what you do, like just last week, I one of my clients, I interviewed someone immediately. I was like, you got to interview this dude. You got to go on his podcast because
Right,
he
right.
talks exactly about this, and he's gonna absolutely love you. And so it was so easy because this dude was like, this is what I do. And I was like, I know somebody who does that too. And they do it like in a different angle. And so you guys are very complimentary. And so it makes a lot of sense, right? That you're just putting it out there, you're talking to people, and magic happens because you never know,
Yep.
when your name is being dropped in a room. Like you don't know what, I don't know what rooms you're gonna go into. You might go into a room full of CEOs and be like, I just met this girl and she was so energetic and so happy. And she told me that her purpose was fun, gratitude, and joy. And that's what she brings to every scenario. And you guys are saying that your company's all like, boo, everybody's out. Let's bring her in and have her do like a pep rally. I don't know. You never know what could
Yeah,
happen,
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Yes. I love
What
that.
so something that happens. I was talking to a guy who did the course last summer.
Mhm.
Just reached out to him and I said, "Hey, tell me about your experience." And he said, um, when I learned my purpose statement, my whole past just kind of fell into place. I had a context for it and I understood it. And what he's saying is, I got clarity. I got clarity
Mhm.
about what led me here and then where I need to take that going forward.
Yeah, like how
And
can I use all of this that's happened
yeah,
to me? I've been there,
and
so I know.
and yeah, and the emotional benefit of that,
Mhm.
whether you're a CEO or you're on the senior leadership team or you're an individual, is that all of a sudden you have clarity about who you are and how you have to conduct yourself into the future. It's like the veil lifts and the fog clears. And with clarity comes certainty. With certainty comes confidence. And so when you discover your purpose, you're discovering the one thing that makes you uniquely remarkable. You now can articulate your superpower, and that elevates your confidence forever because nobody can ever take that superpower away from you. And even when the world is beating you down, hey, you still know that you have a superpower, that you have value, But B, you can also use that superpower to dig you out of the hole that you're in by helping you make better decisions, ones that are more aligned with your purpose.
Yeah, and learning to make decisions is a whole thing on its own, right? And just being able to, like I said, like as someone who's been there, understand, the ramifications, right? Like if I decide this now, what does that mean in a week, in a month, in a year? Like, is this aligning with where I want my life to go? And so it makes
Right.
deciding easier because you look and you're like, nope, doesn't match. Let's keep going. Yeah. Oh, I love this so much. This is fantastic. Now, how can we stay in touch with you? Like, how can we see everything that you're doing? Like you mentioned that you have some cool stuff available. So talk to us about that a little bit.
Yeah, so maybe if you could put the two URLs in the
Yep,
show notes,
down in the
I'd
show
be
notes.
grateful for that. So if you want to learn more about defining what makes you uniquely remarkable as a person, right? Then you want to go to Purpose U. Excuse me, that's like Purpose University. So it's purpose with a U dot AI. And the reason that it's dot AI is because it's an AI empowered course. And what that means is, so here's how you take the course. There's about almost 30 videos. They're short. They're like 2 minutes at the shortest, 5 minutes at the longest, something like that. But you watch a video and then you go do an exercise. Then you watch the next video. You go do an exercise. So when you're watching the video, you have me sitting on one side of you, holding your hand, giving
Mhm.
you detailed instructions about how to do the exercise. And on the other side, you have Wordsmith, our AI assistant, holding your hand and doing two things. One is helping you express things better. So, you got when you're doing exercises, you got to write stuff down. And if you're not happy with the way it's coming out in words, you can say to Wordsmith, "Hey, how can I express this more clearly?" or, whatever. But the other thing is, there's a point about halfway through the process where we've broken down two um, two events in your life that you were very proud of. One business, one personal, hopefully. And we break those down, and what we're left with at the end of that process is three buckets of data: your beliefs, your wants, and your talents. And it's your unique combination of beliefs, wants, and talents that make you who you are. And that's why we're all different, right? Because there's a million different combinations and permutations of beliefs, wants, and talents. And then what we do is we get Wordsmith to help us see what we can't see. What's the common thread here? What ties all of this together? And Wordsmith helps us figure that out. And that's how we start to come to your 7 words or less as an individual. Um, can't remember exactly why I was saying that. Maybe it's just
Oh,
telling
well,
you
I had
about
asked you how we can stay in
Wordsmith.
touch. So yeah, you were telling us
Yeah.
about the courses.
So that's Purpose U. And then
Hmm.
if you're interested from your business's standpoint, if you want, that feeling of the fog lifting and the veil lifts and the fog clears, if you go to 7words.biz, so it's the number 7words.biz. And what I would encourage you to do there, it's not neither of these websites are very big. But what I have is a very robust blog. And I've got a whole bunch of videos on there that talk about purpose and culture, purpose and sales, purpose and marketing, purpose and M&A, purpose and, like say how purpose makes this, that, and the other thing better, faster, easier. So you might want to check out my blog.
Awesome. Hey, those are awesome resources. Thank you so much. And we like to end with a final tip. So based on everything we talked about today, what's a tip you have so people can start implementing right now?
Okay, so I'm going to say this independently of the fact that these are I'm in the business of this. So it's obviously self-serving, but even if I was not in the business of this, right, I would say this is that there are approximately 8 billion people in the world, and I think that over half of them think that there is nothing remarkable about them. And because of that, they don't feel they can do anything special. They don't think that they deserve anything special because there's nothing special about them. And for the very reason that I just gave you, that we all have a unique combination of beliefs, wants, and talents, everybody has something that makes them uniquely remarkable. And so, to those people who don't think they're special, figure out what it is that makes you uniquely remarkable. Prove yourself wrong and see how your life changes. Because then you'll start doing special things. You'll recognize what your special talent is and how to apply it. And then special things will start to come to you because people know what makes you special. And by doing those special things, people learn more about what you're special, what makes you uniquely remarkable. So whether you do it with my assistance, on your own, or somebody else's assistance, like you're here for X number of years.
Yeah,
Figure out what makes you special and then live your life that way.
I love that. And I just want to add that to someone who can't fry an egg, frying an egg is a miracle.
Right,
So
right, right, right.
when
Yeah,
we're
yeah, yeah.
talking about finding what you're special at, we're not talking about like Superman can fly, what can you do? That's not what we're talking about. Like
No,
what
no,
are the
no.
things that you might even take for granted that you don't even give yourself credit for? Like you keep your house super clean, like you cook, you bake, like there might be something super like you just know all 80s trivia. I don't know. There might be something that's so like that you consider mundane, but that might just be the thing that makes you special. So don't underestimate what that special is. Because again, I have an aunt that's like, I can't even boil water. And I have burned boiled water before. Okay, so I know it's possible. I was working in a restaurant. I let it boil too long and it literally burned the pan. I was like, I didn't know you could do that. But I just wanted to mention that. So when we talk about special, it doesn't have to mean like, like you're in Cirque du Soleil. Okay, that's not the kind of special. It's just what's that thing that you're very, very good at that makes you ordinarily human? Because that's what we all are, and so that's something beautiful. So I love that, and I just like to remind myself because, you know, sometimes being special is just, frying an egg is magical. Because I remember when I started cooking for myself, it's like, how the heck do you do this? Why is it getting stuck? And so
Yep,
I
yep.
learned, right? Yeah. But yeah, that's all I wanted to add because this has been such a great episode. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ian.
Nicole, it was my pleasure. Thank you for, letting me talk to your audience.
Absolutely. And we'll see each other online and we'll catch you guys next time on the next episode of Overcome Yourself the podcast. Bye. Thanks again for tuning in to Overcome Yourself the podcast. Stay bold, stay grateful, and keep becoming your best you. For more information and resources from me, Nicole, head over to nicoletexberry.com/resources. See you next time.